If you're the type of person who loves to dig down to the very core when trying to understand a complex issue, then you know certain topics, once lodged in your mind, can drive you to the brink in a short time. The questions discussed here demand intense focus and profound reflection. Therefore, if you've stumbled upon this by chance and aren't prepared for a heavy cognitive load, do yourself a favor. Close this video and go watch something lighter. Curiosity isn't unique to humans. Many other animals possess it too. However, only humans can pose fundamental questions. There exist only two a priori questions that stand above all others. These two questions are more crucial than anything else. If you've ever asked yourself these questions, you think more clearly than most people on this green orb of life. Let me clarify up front. These questions are equivalent, inextricably linked, and either one could be first or second. You'll understand why shortly. So, here are these questions. First, who am I? Contemplating this can be captivating because your entire personality is confined to a tiny space, comparable in size to a decorative watermelon. Consider this. Your whole self resides within this small piece of matter. Looking at the surface, you find your memories, experiences, needs. Ultimately, you are the voice inside your skull that you ignore until you consciously notice it. But what if we dig deeper? Back in 1970, two German psychiatrists, Ingros and Pyatercum, conducted a small experiment. They built a special room at a clinic affiliated with Hamburg University and called it the Silent Chamber, when it was truly soundproof. Sound-absorbing materials on the walls, floor and ceiling completely isolated the interior from external noise. Gross and Kemmer began experiments by placing subjects inside. The goal was to study the effects of social isolation and sensory deprivation. The longer a person remained in the chamber, the more powerful the impact on their psyche. Extended stays led to perceptual distortions, hallucinations, and other unpleasant effects. Moreover, these conditions undermine not just mental, but also physical health, as psychological disturbances disrupt the autonomic nervous system. This chamber could have become the perfect tool for torture, leaving no physical trace. The public resonance sparked by the silent chamber was surprisingly loud. After numerous debates concerning the aforementioned side effects, the experiments were halted in 1973. Presumably, some have already guessed why I cited this experiment and how it relates to our first ontological question. Imagine technology advanced so far that your brain could be completely disconnected from all sensory organs, removed from your skull, and connected to a life support machine. You would cease to see, hear, touch, or feel anything whatsoever. Absolute darkness and silence. You would be left utterly alone with yourself. At your disposal would only be mental images, memories, and internal dialogue. What would happen to your consciousness next? Under such profound sensory deprivation, cognitive processes would very quickly begin to break down. Thoughts would become chaotic. You couldn't concentrate or sequentially reason through even simple things. Visual images from your memory would soon escape your ego's control and manifest as hallucinations. Asthenization, nervous system exhaustion, would set in rapidly. Ultimately, you would descend into a vegetative state and then most likely die. Here, a thin thread connects to the question of the essence of our consciousness. Does it even exist? In our experience, the brain receives data solely from sensory organs. What if it receives something else too? And what if memory were erased? Not partial amnesia, but the complete eradication of all memories, including knowledge of your native language? If in the first scenario you retain an inner voice and images, what would remain after such formatting? Would you still be inside that box? This leads us to the second a priori question. What is happening around me? The picture of reality is far broader, more complex, and more profound than it might initially appear. Why is the universe exactly as we observe it? Why do the laws of physics operate according to these principles? Why is everything precisely this way and not another? And yes, I wasn't being disingenuous when I said this question is inseparable from the previous one. You see, as we've established, the entity in the box receives information indirectly through sensory organs. They don't perceive objects directly. You construct the assumption that objects exist at a distance, when in reality, they exist solely within your head. Look around you. The street, the lamppost, the pharmacy, everything you've ever seen, heard, or touched is merely a picture constructed by your brain, never having left its confines. An entire universe inside your skull. In the near future, with technological advancements, nothing would prevent connecting your brain to a computer and downloading any external scenario into it. And perhaps the thought has already flashed through your mind. What if I'm the main character in some game? The world isn't real, and everything revolves around me? And damn it, maybe it is. Maybe this video is just a way to reach you. Solipsism is a philosophical doctrine that denies objective reality. Solipsists recognize only their own consciousness as existing, considering everything else merely cardboard props generated by their own imagination. The concept of solipsism has always faced fierce attacks and criticism. Arthur Schopenhauer, for instance, claimed solipsism could only succeed in a madhouse. Perhaps that's true, yet no one can ever provide sufficiently weighty proof that objective reality exists independently of a perceiving subject. Could the universe exist without you as an observer? A foolish question? Yes, but not for theoretical physicists. For them, it's a genuinely fascinating topic. The anthropic principle, from Greek anthropos, human, generally states that what we expect to observe must be constrained by the conditions necessary for our existence as observers. That is, we see the universe precisely as it is, because only in such a universe could we have emerged. Understand this. The fundamental physical constants, the speed of light in a vacuum, the gravitational constant, Planck's constant, the mass and charge of the electron and proton, are so finely and precisely tuned to each other that changing them by even a single order of magnitude or eliminating one of the internal quantum numbers would make galaxies, stars, atoms, and consequently life impossible. So, does all this exist for us? Or do we simply live in one of the countless universes where life is possible? Where is the cause and where is the effect? We may only be on the verge of discovering the answers to these questions. Distinctions are made between the strong and weak anthropic principles. A variant of the strong principle is the participatory anthropic principle. A universe without a rational observer doesn't attain the status of reality. The reason is that only you, as the observer, can perform the reduction of the quantum state, collapsing all possible states of the universe into a single, real one. If you didn't grasp that just now, recall Schrödinger's cat. While the box is closed, the system exists in both states simultaneously, superposition. And as astonishing as it sounds, the cat is both alive and dead until you look inside. The universe and everything in it exists in a multitude of states. And until an observer appears within the system, the collapse of the wave function won't occur, leaving everything suspended in that state forever. This is a very crude analogy, but extrapolate it to the entire universe, and you'll grasp the essence. Cogito, ergo mundus talis est. I think, therefore, the world is as it is. So now when someone tells you, get your head out of the clouds, the world doesn't revolve around you, you can confidently accuse them of being unfounded, baseless, and shaky in their assertions. Because with your death, the death of the entire universe, your universe will also occur. And perhaps not just yours. Who knows? Of course, all this is merely fascinating theory. Yet in attempting to answer these two foundational questions, we've approached the idea that our brain might be nothing less than a quantum computer. And some scientists believe this is indeed the case. This implies that quantum computing processes could help us explain and understand the brain's most enigmatic functions. But that's a story for another time. Thanks for your curiosity.